Okay, hi guys, it's Brigitte, and I'm sitting here with the beautiful Mollie Morningstar, who is a psychic medium. And I'm truly blessed that I'm able to interview you.
Well, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here back in Tampa.
So tell me something, the name Morningstar, where did that come from?
It was the name given to me the day I was born. A lot of people think I used to be a stripper or a pole dancer, and I'm very sorry to disappoint them that my parents were hippies. They were just smoking a lot of pot.
Okay.
No special origins. I think my mom admired a woman named Marjorie Morningstar, and that's where it came from, but it does not have great Indian ancestry or anything like that.
When did you actually first find out that you had this gift, these abilities?
It was just about 10 years ago. A lot of people have this big story about how they felt and could sense spirit when they were younger, and then as they got older they have kind of a midlife crisis, and then they decide to be more spiritual, and that is not my story at all. So to the best of my knowledge, I had no former ability to connect with deceased persons, and then one night while I was praying before I fell asleep, I heard a voice in my room that very audibly said, "Love is the best tool for healing." And after I heard that voice, I felt this, what I would now describe as an energetic sensation on the back top of my head, and the energy came down very, very strongly. I could feel it coming down my spine and into my toes and in my fingers. And the odd thing looking back at all this is that I wasn't scared. I didn't know what was happening, but I wasn't panicked. And then after a few minutes, I thought, oh, this should really stop. It's starting to hurt. So that point in the back of my head began to hurt quite a bit. And I just kind of fell asleep, and when I woke up the next day, this ability had been turned on in technicolor, very, 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 very intensely, and I didn't know what had happened to me. And 2 weeks later, I had a massive nervous breakdown. Then about 2 months after that, through what could only be, the strangest coincidences on earth, I got directed to England to this Arthur Findlay College, where I was sure they were going to be able to tell me how to get rid of it, and they didn't. They actually showed me how to work with it. So here we have a whole new life.
I like the Arthur Findlay College. It's great.
Yeah, it was something that happened without any warning.
So you went to the Arthur Findlay College, and that's how you refined your skills. It's kind of like a mental workout.
Yeah, and it was really interesting because the very, very first time I sat down with a tutor, it was Angela McGuinness from Scotland, and she walked me through a connection. And you have to understand, I came from a place of not knowing anything. I had never even considered that we may not die, or that we could communicate with somebody through a medium. So when it was presented to me, to connect with a spirit, I didn't know that language. I didn't know what that spirit was. And she said, well, what is he saying to you? And I'm listening intently from some whisper, and I hear nothing. And I'm like, I don't hear anything. And then she said, no, you're not going to hear it through your ears. It will be just a thought that pops into your head. And she said, ask this spirit what the name is. And I just looked at her, I said, Mavis. And she goes, well, Mavis was my mother. So, and then that continued on, and I brought her extremely relevant information that she was able to teach me how that made sense. So the ability was complete as it arrived, and I just had to learn how to interpret it.
Wow.
Which is really weird. As I found, because I found other people who had been to the class, that I was in, they had been there 6, 7 times repeatedly trying to tune in and get all this, and I walk in and I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So it was just a very different thing.
When you started out, how did you first find work in this field?
It was word of mouth complete, so I didn't have to try to find work at all. It never came that way. Somebody heard about me, and then they told 2 people, and those people told 6 people, and then those 6 people told 18
and
people.
It just grew.
Yeah, it grew very, very quickly. So for 16 years, I had made my living as a muralist, an artist. And within 1 year of that day when that happened to me, I was soon, painting all day, doing readings at night, all weekend long, and I was losing my mind. And it took me about 2 years to make the transition to do mediumship full time.
From a muralist to being a medium, that's quite
Yeah, from a painter to being a medium. Although, when I look back, the murals are really large paintings done on walls. And so the last commission that I did was for the public library in my town. It's 60 feet long by about 12 feet high. And
that's big.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's like this entire room. It's a really, really substantial thing that takes about a year to complete. But I've always loved doing it, and I've been painting since I was 8 years old, and that little voice in my head would just tell me what to do with the colors. It would be like 3 strokes of black, add a little cadmium red, 1 little bit of ochre, mix, 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 stroke, stroke, stir, 3 to the left, 3 to the right. I always felt like I was doing paint by number.
Okay.
So I don't know. Maybe back then I was channeling something.
You probably were.
I probably were. I was listening intently to what I was supposed to do without really realizing that that's what I was doing.
So why do you do this work, and what motivates you?
Well, that very first experience that I had, like I said, I had gone to the Arthur Findlay College intent to figure out how to get my life back and to recover from this disastrous nervous breakdown that I had had. And in that moment, when I told the tutor her mother's name and about a relationship that had been severed with her brother and all these different things, it was like this light went on for me. And I realized that I had this great capacity to help people heal. And about, I would say, maybe 2 years before all this began, I had started feeling a lot of unrest around my painting career because as a commissioned artist, I mainly worked in really beautiful homes for very, very wealthy clients. This is definitely nothing that somebody needs to get by. So I felt like I was spending my days making a beautiful home even more beautiful, and when the people were tired of this painting, they would just paint over it. And it just left me feeling like I wanted to do something more meaningful.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was, but I was feeling kind of hollow inside. So as in the very beginning, when I began to realize, and I would see this profound change that would come over people, I knew that this was what I was meant to do.
Yeah, because you really help people.
Yeah, it really helps people. So, what I want to do with my ability and what people want me to do with my ability are sometimes at odds with each other. People want me to give as many messages as possible, and I want to teach as many people as possible how to connect with their loved ones without me present. Because there is nothing special that anybody has to do in order to have that connection. So at groups like I'm doing here in Tampa tonight, I always take the time to explain to people 3 very easy steps that they can use to learn to recognize that connection without a medium present.
And what are the 3 easy steps?
Okay, so I'll give you the 5-second version. The first is to learn to recognize the moment when you suddenly become flooded with thoughts of a loved one.
Yeah.
The second is to validate their spiritual presence with you by physically feeling it. And then the third is to receive the communication, which is not going to be a voice in the room.
No, but sometimes you will also smell smell of flowers, or sometimes I'll smell cigarettes all of a sudden in my car, and I know it's my stepdad.
Right. There's millions of ways to get that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So besides giving readings and traveling around and sort of teaching, but also giving readings in group settings, do you also give workshops?
I do. I have a workshop. It's called Learning to Recognize the Connection to Spirit, a day-long workshop for regular people. So this is an intensive but fun day-long workshop that I offer to people who are bereaved that want to learn how a medium does what they do, to eradicate any mystery behind it, and also to teach them a little bit more in depth if those 3 quick steps aren't enough for somebody, if they want to learn to foster that connection on their own so that they can feel more connected. So that is the workshop that I offer right now. Next year I will begin a mentorship and teaching program, but my own standard is that I did not want to teach other people mediumship until I myself had 10 years of actually doing the work under my belt.
That makes sense. So are you going to be teaching around the country?
I
Or is it
haven't.
going to be online?
I haven't quite decided yet. My idea is that I will probably host workshops around the U.S., but I will take a very small group for mentoring, and it will be a monthly or bi-weekly thing that we do online.
Okay. And the other question is that I have is, are you writing a book?
Yes. Writing. Yes.
That'd be interesting.
Yes. I hope it gets out really soon. It's a long process, the editing and the writing, and I think that, again, I have it stuck in my head that I don't want to be that person who is a brand new medium that writes a book about their life. So I think that I've started and I've written so many chapters of this book so many times, and as I go back, I have more and more better experiences. To me, it's incredibly important to bring a long history to the table as for teaching and for writing books. And and I'm approaching that 10-year mark, and that's good for me. I have a lot of opinions about somebody who's a brand new medium that has written a book about, mediumship.
I love the biographies, and I've read John Edward and Tony Stockwell, and they're so much fun to read.
It is interesting because everybody's path to how they get where they've gotten is like so different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to have me out today.
I know. I'm so thankful. Thank you.